The space seemed to freeze, leaving only her warmth, our rapid breathing, and the feeling that everything outside had disappeared. The unspoken words melted away in that meaningful silence, leaving only us in the quiet night, where all distances were erased. 2 hours passed. It was a time of great ecstasy for us. She reached the top of the mountain twice, and I also experienced the fresh feeling of my first life. Welcome to Secret Love Tales channel, R. If you love engaging and emotional love stories, then come to our channel. Here we will bring you stories full of surprises, touching, and engaging. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any interesting stories. In today's video, we would like to send you a story called With the Neighbor Girl, narrated by Jane. Please follow along. When I grew up, I learned that Miss Taylor was not my relative as I had thought, but was just a kind neighbor, very close and intimate with my family. She was a woman who had lost her husband. Her husband, David, had just passed away 4 years ago due to a drunk driving accident. David was born into a wealthy family. His family had a business, but he spent all day drinking and not working. His parents found Taylor gentle and cute, so they asked to marry him, hoping that once he had a family, he would be smart and not be as bad as before. But he was still the same. Even when he and his wife had Daisy, he still did not change. Then tragedy struck and he passed away, leaving behind my sister and baby Daisy, who was not yet 3 years old. My parents saw how pitiful my sister was, especially baby Daisy, so they treated her and baby Daisy as family, loved them very much, and protected them like their own children. Since her husband passed away, she had to fend for herself. Although she was a weak woman in her current situation, she had to struggle to make a living, and she adapted very quickly thanks to the help of her husband's parents. She brought back all kinds of goods, from dried goods, cans, boxes, bottles, jars of all kinds to drinks. She brought them all back and displayed them all for sale right at her house. Thanks to that, she and Daisy had a relatively stable and fulfilling life. And of course, she was quite busy because she had to sell goods, go shopping, and take care of Daisy's schooling. My parents assigned me to help her. In the morning, I helped her display the goods. In the evening, I carried them in, and whenever she needed me, I was there to help, except in the afternoon when I had to go to school. Because of her always cheerful and friendly personality, her shop is quite crowded, and everyone in the village and neighborhood loves her. In terms of appearance, she looked very young. I didn't know exactly how old she was, but I guessed she was at most a year older than me, which meant I was 15 and she was around 27. Later, I found out that she was 32. She is not a very beautiful woman, just above average, but she looks very charming, with a plump face and a bright smile. Her figure is very well proportioned, not tall, not short, not fat, not thin, and thanks to working indoors all year round, not having to go out in the fields to bask in the sun like many other women, she has very white skin. Since I grew up, I have loved my sister, but only as a sister in the family. About a year ago, my image of her changed. Not like before, but instead there were feelings of lust for her flesh. My little guy often protested whenever he saw her white, inviting skin exposed, which she was initially unaware of. Because she considered me a younger brother in the family, she was indifferent. At home, she often dresses very revealingly and provocatively, especially at night when the shop is closed. Perhaps she is young and has a liberal mindset. One time, while she was mopping the floor, her pants were rolled up quite high, revealing a pair of white legs. At that time, I had just come from home and saw that scene. My little guy stood up, wearing the shorts I was wearing. After a while, she stopped and looked up, but she only smiled without a word of reproach. Then there were many other times when I stood high up helping her stack cans on the shelves, while she stood below to carry them up for me to stack. Then from above, looking down through the rather wide collar of her t-shirt, I clearly saw her full, round and white ears. At that time, my little guy was also pointed right at her face. She saw it very clearly, but she just stared for a moment and said, "You've grown so fast. It's been so long?" but now you're no longer the innocent boy you used to be." From then on, I started to miss her. Her image was always cloudy and inviting in my mind. I often went to her house even though I had nothing to do. I also wandered over just to look at her and her exposed body. Then, during the day, I thought too much. At night, I dreamed, and in my dream, I dreamed of doing it with her. When I woke up with a start, my pants were soaked. Just like that, I daydreamed about unrequited love and masturbated at night without knowing how to deal with it. Many times I wanted to do it so much that I wanted to do it, but when it was time to do it, I didn't dare. Seeing her always so calm, I didn't know what she was thinking. I was just worried that if I was not careful, she would knock out my teeth and tell my parents. Then my life would be ruined. Actually, I was just worrying too much, but Taylor was just as eager. Sometimes Taylor just wanted to put aside all her false morals and follow her instincts to do it with me. It had been 3 years since she had done it, so she was really craving it. It was very uncomfortable. Every time she saw my little guy, Taylor's stream would leak wetly. Until one day I went to her place to help her with her daily chores. That day she felt tired, so she closed the shop early and went to her room to rest. I asked, "Are you sick?" She replied, "I don't know why, but I have a headache and feel dizzy. Please help me clean up the goods and put all the David products on the shelves." I said yes, and quickly did as she asked. A moment later, I finished all the work she assigned me. I washed my hands and sat in the living room watching TV, intending to go home later, when suddenly it started to rain. A heavy and persistent rain that showed no signs of stopping, forcing me to sit there. Suddenly I heard Taylor calling me from inside the room. I tiptoed in and asked, "What are you doing?" "Do you know how to scrape wind, Tien? Please scrape for me for a while to see if it helps. She's so uncomfortable." I replied, "I know. At home, I usually shave for my parents. Then go down to the kitchen and get a spoon to scrape it for me. But choose a blunt one, otherwise it will hurt and sting a lot." I said yes and went straight to the kitchen. When I came back, she was lying face down on the bed, her body covered with a blanket. She said, "Here's the oil, apply it and shave for me." After saying that, she pulled the blanket covering her body down with both hands, revealing her white back. I was stunned, staring at her bare back. At the same time, my little guy was getting up. She was lying face down with her head turned towards me, and I was standing, preparing to bend down to rub oil on her back. So lying in that position, she could clearly see my little guy was wearing it and facing forward. I was so embarrassed but didn't know what to do. While I was still thinking, she urged me, "Rub oil on and scrape your back. Why are you looking so blank?" I was startled and then walked towards the bed, bent down and used my trembling hands to rub oil on her smooth, bare back. A gentle feeling quickly transmitted from her back to my hands, making me even more attracted, and my little guy danced in my pants again, right next to her face. Although she was having a headache and was dizzy, my little guy was making her feel restless all over. She was burning up. At this moment, she could no longer hold back. Her eyes stared at my little guy for a while, then suddenly her 2 hands reached out to grab it, and with a completely lost voice, she said, "Come here to me, good boy." At this moment, my face was pale like someone who had a stroke. I was both happy and nervous. I said with a trembling voice, "I'm scared." She took my hand and pulled me onto the bed and said, "There's nothing to be afraid of when you come here. I know you want me so much, right?" I nodded but did not answer. "I'm like you. I want it so much, but if I keep holding it in like this forever, I'll probably get sick. Let me indulge you today." I said, "I want you too, but I'm so scared. What if you get pregnant? And my parents, if they find out, it's all over. I won't say, who will know? We just need to be careful. Who will know? As for getting pregnant, I will take birth control pills. There's nothing for you to worry about. But I don't know what to do. I will show you, just do what I tell you." Seeing that I seemed to be satisfied, she began to pull down my pants. My little guy was freed. David bravely reached forward. She held it lovingly with both hands for a while, then put it deliciously in her mouth. I was all over. I didn't expect her to be so proactive. Then she took my hand, brought it up to her 2 grapefruits, and said, "Try it." I did as she asked, but I didn't know how to make her like it. I had never done it with anyone before, so how would I know? I had also followed my friends to the movies, but I had never practiced like this. Remembering the scenes in the movie, I imitated and did it. I didn't know if I did it right, but I heard her start to make some soft, creepy sounds. Under the dim light in her room, the space seemed to be immersed in silence, only the sound of my heart pounding in my chest. Her bed was near the window, the light from outside shining and highlighted her gentle features. I hesitated a bit, then my hands gradually took off the pieces of cloth on her body one by one and crumpled them up at the end of the bed. "I didn't think I'd be this lucky," I whispered, my voice hoarse with emotion. She didn't answer, just turned to look at me, her eyes shining with gentleness mixed with a bit of confusion. Her hand gently lifted up to touch mine. The light touch like a small flame made my whole body tremble. I squeezed her hand and pulled her closer. She didn't resist, just lowered her head slightly, but I could feel her breathing was as rapid as mine at this moment. "You know," I said, my voice choking, "there are things I can't say, but..." She looked up at me, her eyes seemed to bore into my mind. Without waiting any longer, I leaned down slightly, my lips lightly brushing her soft hair, the sweet scent making me unable to hold back my ecstasy. She closed her eyes slightly, her cheeks flushed, but then her arms wrapped around my back, a response that was intense and gentle. The space seemed to freeze, leaving only her warmth, our rapid breathing, and the feeling that everything outside had disappeared. The unspoken words melted away in that meaningful silence, leaving only us in the quiet night, where all distances were erased. 2 hours passed. It was a time of great ecstasy for us. She reached the top of the mountain twice, and I also experienced the wonderful feeling of my first life. When we finished, we hugged each other tightly, hand in hand like a real couple. After a while, she sat up, her face bright, no longer showing any signs of illness. Looking at me lovingly, she bent down and placed a passionate kiss on my lips and said, "Don't tell anyone about what happened today." I replied, "I dare not tell anyone, don't worry. If my parents hear about it, I'll be in trouble." "Yes, that's right. Not only you, but I'm finished too. If this gets out, my whole family and I will have to move somewhere else to live. We can't stand the world's ridicule. Now, take the umbrella and run home. Tell your mother that I asked you to come over here tonight to sleep because Daisy is sleeping with her grandmother tonight. I'm scared if she sleeps alone. Come over here and sleep with me." I said yes and stood up to find clothes to put on and ran home to tell my mother, and then I ran back right away. When I came back, she was still lying on the bed, still in the same state, meaning she was naked from top to bottom. Seeing me, she said, "Come here." I was bolder now, not as timid as at first. I stepped up and lay down next to her, staring at her inviting work of art, which I had not paid close attention to earlier because I was nervous and afraid. Now that I looked at it, I saw how beautiful it was. From top to bottom, white and fresh, just like a stunning beauty. Her white pink face without makeup was naturally beautiful. A little below were 2 medium-sized white grapefruits, and on top were 2 very inviting pink cherries. Plus, her slim belly created a very seductive curve that unmarried girls would feel jealous of. Her hips were well proportioned with her bust and waist. A little below were a pair of slender white thighs that used to make me swoon every time I saw them while she was cleaning the house. The most notable point is that the Thian Tai cave is located between 2 truong tu trees, covered with a thick patch of jet black grass that is still wet after the rain and has not yet dried, sticking to the cave entrance. Seeing me staring, she shyly spoke up. "Why are you looking at me like that?" I complimented. "You are so beautiful." Being complimented, she was very happy but still pretended to complain. "Am I beautiful?" "Not only beautiful, but also attractive." That was my sincere compliment. I'm not the type of person who only compliments to please or achieve some purpose. She understood and was very happy. She put her arms around me, hugged me tightly, and whispered, "You too, I love you so much." I asked, "Am I satisfying you now?" She nodded and replied, "Great. You did very well. I've never seen anything like that before." I asked again, "Didn't David make you feel better back then?" She sobbed and replied, "Thinking about that makes me so sad. Back then, every time David came home from drinking, he did it but only for himself. He never thought about me. He rubbed it a few times, and when I started to feel a little, he was done and rolled over and fell asleep." Listening to her story, I felt so sorry for her. I put my arms around her and hugged her tightly, saying, "From now on, I will make it up to you." After saying that, my lips found hers and pressed tightly. At the same time, my two hands started moving, traveling all over her. That night, I worked with her for 2 more rounds, and each round had to be played in overtime, giving her the most wonderful moments. From that day on, every morning before the shop opened, and when Daisy had just left home for school, my sister and I worked together. We were both passionate about this hobby and had to do it at least once a day. On days when Daisy was not home, my sister and I had to do it 3 or 4 times before we felt satisfied. When we were tired, we would rest, and when we woke up, we would work hard until we were tired. My sister and I practiced all kinds of things, sometimes in the living room, sometimes in the bathroom, sometimes in the kitchen, even in the warehouse. Whenever we felt safe and no one was watching, my sister and I would compete. And so, the sisterly love was so passionate, it seemed impossible to separate. But nothing in life can last forever. One day, my family received a notice of military service. This was also my parents' intention. They wanted me to join the army to become stronger, then find a way for me to study to become a professional officer. When I received the news, I was extremely sad. I did not expect it to happen so quickly. The news of my having to join the army was soon spread throughout the neighborhood, and my sister was also the first person my parents told the news to. But like me, she was very sad. When my mother finished telling the news and left, I saw her with tears streaming down her face, running quickly into her room and burying her head in her pillow, sobbing. I was also heartbroken. I went to her side and said, "I'm gone. I'll come back to visit you tomorrow. It's not a separation of life and death. Why are you crying?" She still buried her face in the pillow and cried. I had to move closer, lie down, hug her, and comfort her. "I know you love me and can't bear to leave me alone. But in this situation, I don't know what to do. Should I tell my parents that I love you and want to stay with you? But if you leave, what will I do?" Even though she said that, she immediately wiped her tears away, stood up, and said, "I'm just sad," and cried a little. "But I'm fine. This day would have come anyway. When we first started working together, I knew this day would come. Because no matter what, you couldn't marry me, right?" That's her personality. She shows her happiness or sadness right away, and her temperament is very sentimental. Watching a touching movie can make her cry like rain, but then she can laugh out loud right away. And so the two of us loved each other until the day I had to leave. The day before we said goodbye, my sister and I worked together all night, as if we were making up for the days to come. And while we were screaming and yelling, tears welled up in our eyes. It was almost 7 a.m. when I hugged her and said goodbye. "I'm going. When I come back, stay strong and wait for me." She nodded her head, moved, then cried and laughed. Her hands reached down to caress and kiss my little boy one last time and said mockingly, "Go wherever you want, but leave this for me." Ladies and gentlemen, our story ends here today. If you find this story inspiring, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next meaningful stories. Don't forget to leave a comment below about your thoughts or share your own memorable stories. We look forward to receiving your sympathy and support. Now, Jane would like to thank you and see you again in the next videos. Wishing you a day full of love and positive energy.